Hey everybody, this is Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com, a place where we apply the Bible to real life situations and offer a pastoral counselor's perspective. And today we're talking about 5 Christian dating boundaries. And I think there's so much confusion and debate about what, dating should be and what boundaries should be in place is because by nature, dating is kind of ambiguous, right? You're somewhere in between friendship and marriage. You're not just friends, but you're also not married. And so you want to share parts about you and you want to open up to this person that you're dating because you want to see whether or not you want to progress. But on the flip side, you also want to protect your heart because you're not sure if this is going to last and you don't want to do yourself damage in the process. So rather than give you a list of do's and don'ts, because I don't want to turn this into a religious thing where, hey, do this and don't do that. What I'd like to do today is offer you 5 categories that I think you and your circle of influence and maybe you and your boyfriend or girlfriend should sit down and talk about together and say, what should the boundaries be in these specific categories that we're talking about here? So the first category I would throw out to you that you would want to have a boundary in Christian dating has to do with your emotions. As you've probably heard, Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart above all else because, it's a wellspring of life. And again, in dating, your heart is constantly on the line because you're exposing yourself to someone else and being vulnerable without the commitment that should be there in theory when you're progressing emotionally. So in the Bible, romance and intimacy are always paired with commitment. The more you share with somebody, the more you open up your heart to somebody, that should coincide with the level of commitment you're making to that person. So you should be guarded in a dating relationship because you two haven't made the fullest commitment possible you can to somebody, which is marriage. In marriage, you don't have to guard your heart to the same level as you do in dating because the commitment is there. So how much should you share emotionally? How much should you open up your heart to somebody? I don't know exactly for you. What I would say is that you should share enough with that person to know whether or not the two of you want to progress forward. So if you're sharing not enough, so you don't know if the two of you want to be married, you're probably not sharing enough. But if you're opening yourself up so much where, hey, you want to progress with this person, but you're sharing stuff that really should be reserved for marriage, you're crossing a boundary there and you're opening yourself up to damage. So the first one I would say is protect your heart and protect your emotions. Set boundaries in that area. The second place I would encourage you to think about putting boundaries in your Christian dating relationship is talking about the future with somebody, with your boyfriend or girlfriend. I think this is a really common error I see a lot in dating. It's you talk about the future too much. And when you do that, you're just exposing yourself to all kinds of hopes and dreams, and you end up feeling closer to somebody than you really are, which then increases the temptation sexually, emotionally, and takes you way further than you really should go. So you should really place boundaries about what you're talking about in the future. You don't, if you're dating for just a few months, you don't need to start talking about kids yet. You don't need to start listing the names of what names you like or what holidays you're going to be, sharing when you get married, what kind of house you want to live in. When you do that, you're just going way too far and you're going to go too far in your dating relationship. So again, how much should you talk about the future? Obviously, I'm not saying never talk about the future. You're going to need to do that. That's something that you have to do in dating to make sure that you're compatible for the future in marriage. So again, just like the last category, I would say you should share an appropriate amount for the level of commitment that's there right now. If you're on the not very committed end of the dating relationship, guard what you're talking about for the future. If you're on the medium to high level of how serious this is, the serious scale, you're in the medium or high level, I would say, okay, it's time to start talking about some of those big things that you need to talk about in dating. Overall, put some boundaries around the conversations you have around the future. Number 3 really goes in and out of all of the categories I'm talking about. And number 3 is put boundaries around your expectations. So there should be expectations in dating. It should be fun. You shouldn't, go into it pessimistic. Absolutely, there should be some sort of hope in this dating relationship that it's going to progress further. If there's no hope in the dating relationship, what are you doing? Why are you dating that person? So of course, there should be hope. But as Proverbs 13:12 says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. But, a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. And so what that verse means is when you have a hope is a biblical definition of hope, is a expectations for something good in the future. So when that hope is dashed, you're devastated, right? And so we need to guard what we're putting our hope in. Ultimately, our main hope should be in Jesus Christ alone. So we're looking to the head, we're looking in the future for good in Jesus, because we know that hope is for sure going to be fulfilled, and then our hearts won't grow sick. But if you have a hope that you're putting in a person, and then that hope doesn't work out, the two of you break up, your heart's going to be really sick because of that. I think it's kind of unavoidable to some degree or the other to, not have your heart sick for a little bit after a breakup. But one way you can guard your heart is to have healthy levels of hope in that relationship. So if you're dating for a week and you break up, yeah, it's going to be sad. But if you put all your hope in that relationship right up front and you thought that person was going to be the one for you, you're going to be devastated when that relationship doesn't work out. So guard your expectations, guard your hope, and match your expectations with the appropriate season that the dating relationship is in. The further it progresses, the more hope and expectations there should be that this is going to turn into marriage. Number 4 is probably the one most people think about when we're talking about boundaries in dating for Christians, and that is around your sexuality. Obviously, there needs to be boundaries in the area of your physical intimacy with your boyfriend or girlfriend. So what's the line? Okay, this is really where I don't want to give do's and don'ts because there's so much debate here. And I think the Bible doesn't give do's and don'ts. You're not going to find a Bible verse where it says don't lay on the couch together or don't kiss. And I'm not telling you whether or not to do those things, but what I would say is the Bible does give us categories. For example, in 1 Corinthians 7, there's 2 big categories that the Bible gives us for physical intimacy between people. Really, they're really simple. Number 1, all sexual experiences are reserved for marriage. That's it. It's really simple. Any sexual experience outside of the commitment of marriage violates God's original intention for physical intimacy and sexual experiences. So if you're experiencing something sexual in your dating relationship, you're crossing a boundary that the Bible has given you. So I think the tricky part is whether you would define something like kissing as a sexual experience or as maybe a sign of affection. I think you can play head games with that. Obviously, I don't think we need to debate too long if a long makeout session is sexual. It is, okay? So don't do that. It's just definitely going to get you into trouble. But, other things, again, I don't want to get into do's and don'ts. It's more so about the category of, is it a sexual experience or is it not a sexual experience? And honestly, I think the reason nowadays why people date so long, and while a lot of times, marriage is delayed for so long, is because sexual experiences are experienced so early in the dating relationship. So in theory, you shouldn't have too long of a dating relationship, because if you two are connecting in a good way that God has for you, the sexual desire is going to be growing more and more. So don't let that dating relationship last too long. Progress into marriage and enjoy sex as God has designed it for marriage. All right, last but certainly not least, I would say number 5, you need to have boundaries around your words and your promises. So, cutting right to the chase, there's a lot of things I think you should and shouldn't say. Again, I'm not going to get into all that. But one challenge I would throw out to you is that the 3 words, I love you. For me personally, I don't believe in saying those words in dating. I think if you're going to say I love you, there should be a ring attached to that. Because biblically speaking, love is always connected to commitment, as we talked about in the beginning of this video. So for me, I didn't want to tell my wife that I love you, but then not showing her the commitment of that love. Loyalty and love should be married together. And so when I proposed to my wife, that was the first time I said I love you. And I'm very happy we did that, because it was an expression of, hey, I really do love you. This isn't just words. This is action that I'm putting to it. Now, I completely respect if you look at I love you differently than me. I respect that, and I'm not saying this is a law for you to follow or don't follow. But I would say, in general, put boundaries around what you say and about the promises you make to somebody in the dating relationship. Because again, if you're saying things and then not adding commitment to that, you're going to be going places in that dating relationship that are going to get you in trouble. Well, there's so much more we could talk about here. It's a huge topic. These are just 5 categories that I'm throwing out to you for you and your boyfriend or girlfriend to think through as you're trying to honor the Lord in your dating experience. So again, I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up so other people can see this. If you're watching this on Facebook, make sure you like our AGW Facebook page so you get all of our newest videos and articles in your news feed. Hit the like button, hit the share button, leave us a comment and let us know what you think about this. What boundaries should be included that aren't here? Do you agree or disagree? All right, have a good one.